Once upon a time, there lived a girl named Ebube. Ebube was a girl from a very poor background. She lived with her parents in the village. Her parents were farmers who barely had enough income from their farm crops. Ebube was the most beautiful and hardworking girl among her peers. But there was something about her that everyone in the village finds odd. Despite being poor, she never stopped helping people in her own little way and had refused to pick a man from her suitors to marry. Her parents would always advise her to pick from the rich suitors and wipe away shame and poverty from their family. But Ebube told them that she does not want to marry out of wealth and material things. One day, one of the maidens was getting married. Ebube was invited. When they gathered to eat, they pointed out to Ebube that among all of them, she was the only one who had no husband and had refused to marry from all the suitors that had been coming, and if she wants to remain poor and unmarried for the rest of her life. But Ebube replied them that she does not want to marry because of wealth, just to wipe poverty out of her family, that she wants to marry out of love, and that her happiness matters a lot to her, and she wasn't ready and willing to sacrifice it because of material things. But they all told her that she was being selfish and had no pity for her poor parents. Despite all their mockeries and harsh words, Ebube remained unbothered. One day, Ebube and her parents went to the village market. While they were in the market, one of the villagers rushed to the market to inform them that a wildfire had broken out in the village and their farm and its crops had burned to the ground. Ebube and her parents quickly ran to their farm in panic. When they got to their farm, they found out that some of the villagers who were around during the fire breakout has helped them in taking out the fire, but their farm crops, including the ones they were supposed to deliver to people in the fire breakout. After the fire, they were left with nothing. After some days, one of the king's men came to offer help to them, but requested that Ebube would marry his son in return. Her parents agreed to his request because they were lost of all hope and had nothing to rely on. But Ebube refused to accept the proposal because she doesn't want to marry out of pity and material things. Her parents were so disappointed, but Ebube was not bothered, for her mind was clearly made. One night, Ebube was coming back from the market. She saw a crippled beggar seated at the foot of a tree along the bush path. The crippled beggar asked for some food to eat. Ebube brought out some bread she bought for her parents from the village market and gave it to the crippled beggar. She spent few minutes with him and left. The next day, she saw the crippled beggar along the village road, begging for food to eat. Ebube gave him food and water. "What is your name?" he asked. "My name is Ebube," she replied him. He thanked her, and since then they became friends. Ebube would always take some food and water to him whenever she was going to the market, stream, and farm. Gradually, Ebube fell in love with him and spent more time with him. One day, the crippled beggar asked her to marry him, and without hesitations, she agreed to marry him and asked him to come see her parents. The next day, the crippled beggar came to see her parents for them to allow him marry Ebube. But her parents chased him away and told him never to step foot into their compound again. Ebube felt bad for how her parents treated him. Not so long, the news of her falling in love and agreed to marry a crippled beggar spread round the village like a heavy lightning, and all the maidens began to mock her for making a wrong decision. She became a laughingstock in the village, but that never bothered her, for her love was deeper and stronger than their mockeries. The next day, Ebube went to the spot where the crippled beggar usually stayed, but he was not there. She searched for him everywhere for days, but he was nowhere to be found. Ebube cried day and night for days. The villagers made mockery of her for loving a crippled beggar, but that never stopped her from loving him, for she had pure and genuine love for the crippled beggar. 1 week later, a very wealthy man from the neighboring village came to their house. He introduced himself as Ifeanyi and offered them a huge amount of money to start up their farming business again. At first, they were afraid to accept the money, for they knew that Ebube wouldn't accept to marry him in return. But he made it clear to them that he does not want anything in return. After a while, he asked them to go show him the farm to know the outcome of it. Ebube and her parents led the way to the farm. On their way going, they got to the spot where the crippled beggar usually sat. He sat down there, and one of the guards that were with him started to redress him. Soon, people gathered, and within few minutes, he was totally transformed to the crippled beggar. Everyone was extremely surprised, including Ebube and her parents. Her parents were shocked and ashamed of how they treated him in the past. He then told them everything and the reason he disguised himself as a crippled beggar. He said he needed a good woman with a good heart to make his wife, and Ebube was the perfect meaning of a good woman with a good heart. He further said that he left his village because all the maidens were desperate to do anything to be his wife, and that he wasn't ready to risk his happiness for any desperate thing. He fell in love with Ebube the very first day he set his eyes on her, and he loved her the more the day she accepted to marry him, even with the conditions he was in. Ebube was very happy that finally no one would laugh at her for loving a crippled beggar. Few days later, he came with his kinsmen to pay her bride price, and after 2 days, they got married. Before then, some of the maidens that married rich men for their money regretted ever getting married because of material things. They confessed to Ebube that their husbands treat them like a piece of rag. Some also told her that their husband cheats on them with other women. And when they complained, they threatened to send them back to their parents to suffer. And some divorced their husbands secretly to avoid shame and mockery from the villagers. While Ebube lived happily ever after with her husband, because she married for love and not for material things. Moral lesson from this is that never let family pressure push you into an imperfect marriage. Poverty and pity is never a good reason to marry. It's better to remain single than to marry wrongly, for marriage is a university that you can never graduate from. Thank you for watching. Please do subscribe, like and share our videos. It helps us more to grow. Thank you. See you in our next video. Bye bye. Love you.